Hello, in this tutorial we're going to look at setting up a 21st century functioning economy. So open the app and you get the basic template, which is some old houses built a while ago. Now you can buy these houses for not much more than it costs to build them. So the first thing we need to do to push up prices is to get some debt into this market. So click on Invent Mortgage. And then we need to get this market rigged, so let's get some planning laws installed. This is the UK version and that will automatically update. So we've created a situation in which hardly anything can get built except by a few large institutions, and that means we've restricted supply to what's already there and a few crappy new builds. Next, we need to flood this market with money. So let's have a little fiddle with the monetary system. So we've got house prices nicely going up, which means interest rates should go up as well. So if you're a central banker monitoring inflation, click on Ignore. We've got a bubble now that is going to pop, and when it does, I want you to click on Bailout Banks, Slash Interest Rates and Quantitative Easing, and that will nicely prop up prices. If people start complaining, install Help to Buy, and that will mute them. And it'll be a nice little earner for the house building companies as well. And you're going to have a situation now in which, even though a house is cheap to build, pretty much anyone under the age of 35 isn't going to be able to afford one. Just to buy or rent even the tiniest place, they're going to have to work like slaves, pool their wealth, get subsidised by their parents, put off starting a family, and take on shed loads of debt. And there we have it, a functioning 21st century economy. To recap, the ingredients here, the key ingredients, are the money system, planning laws, and a subsidise homeowners at all costs mentality.
Boom, we are back. That's right. All-time highs, Pod 134. Mr. All-In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ. The People's Champ is in the house. So Never Look, aka the Excellence of Execution, and surprise, surprise, even at all-time highs, Mrs. No Show is still nowhere to be seen.
Will we get Mrs. No Show back on the show?
Maybe.
Do you think when it hits 69,000, she'll appear?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we smashed that in dollars.
Oh, no, I'm saying for pounds.
Who cares? I can't believe that's the bit of the intro that you concentrate on every single time.
Every time. Every time.
And this version of the intro had the word all-time high in it, in every currency.
Yes.
And finally in dollars, 69K was the all-time high. Couldn't get through it.
We've been doing this in the barest of all bear markets.
Now we're at what, 72K? Like maybe we took a little bit of a dip, but that's not
week in, week out.
It's busted through now. Busted through. So yeah, so we're all-time high. Like this time last week, we were all-time high in pounds.
I think that's the biggest change on this one, because we've seen Bitcoin usually boom upon a bull market, haven't we? Whereas we are experiencing a bit of a bear market. There's always reports of billionaires pulling out their stash out of funds, investments, and stocks. Yet Bitcoin's booming, isn't it?
No, the stock market is all-time highs as well.
Yeah, but I thought it was on negatives. If you look at S&P, I've seen there's always reports about billionaires pulling their money out.
Well, suppose like depending on which day you talk about, but if you zoom out, the S&P is.
Oh yeah, we're still up there, but there's just the reports at the moment.
Yeah, it'll be massive news if the S&P as an entire market was down 20, 30, 40% and was proper cratering and Bitcoin was mooning. You go, wow, that's a very strong narrative. But at the moment, Bitcoin is largely still following the cycles that the stock market is following. So the stock market is largely up. Bitcoin is also up. but I think over the last week, a couple of days, the market was down, but Bitcoin was significantly up, which is I think it's the start. It's the start of it's the decoupling, isn't it? That's the big word that people use a lot. It's, at the moment, Bitcoin is largely coupled to the fiat finance world. And I think once we become truly decoupled, then it's basically the reason why the fiat finance world is going down is because people are exiting and coming into Bitcoin. At the moment, it looks like people are just plowing money into the market left, right, and center. And there's a decent chunk of it landing up in Bitcoin. So, but
it's one of those.
Facebook's up, Google's up.
Yeah.
You know, Nvidia up 17x over the last like 2 years or something nuts. Like,
yeah.
There's lots of booms happening in the fiat finance world at the moment.
Nvidia was one of those that we also highlighted as well when we first started this group, which I must say is probably about 10 years old now. When we first got together with regards to Justice League and looking at stocks and shares, and of course how time flies. But yeah, there was
Yeah, it probably was around there. It was a train ride back home at like 8 p.m. or something, wasn't it? And I just happened to be sitting in the same carriage as you, and you're on the way back. We should set up a group. I've been talking to these other two lads in the office as well about this. Should I create a group? I'm like, go on then.
and here we are. I think it's probably 8 years. So I think it's when I'd moved house as well, when we're talking about it. So it was, say it was 8 years ago, and it started off for stocks, and you're like, invest in Bitcoin. We ignored you and your magic internet money, and here we are 8 years later, balls deep.
And the group's not called Justice League anymore. It's just called Toxic Bitcoin Maxis.
I was going to say, and stocks on shares aren't really talked about in that group anymore.
Not at all.
Why would you bother when you got the best generation?
Absolutely.
Just
it's just forgotten about. Yeah, it's amazing, and the reason why I bring this up as well is I see, we've all got kids now as well, but kids all follow what their friends want to do. So my eldest son wants to go to a football camp, or doesn't want to go to a football camp unless his friends are there, and it's like, well, I get it, but you'll probably make friends there anyway. But it's a big following, and ultimately, being together has pushed us all to continue along this route and this path. And I've said it many a time that, daily I think about Mr. All In out of the rat race, thinking, I need to do it. How do I do it? I need to stack more. I need to be there with him, because he, can't just chill on the farm by himself. He needs a playmate. So if I'm out, we're out together. And that's the way I think that it needs to happen. Yeah, exactly that.
Maybe Citadel needs a dance teacher.
Yeah, you know that. Indeed.
While the kids getting their dance-off skills down.
Yeah.
Don't know what I'm doing in the Citadel.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got your dance teacher. What's what am I doing, and what's Miss No Show doing?
At the moment, I'm literally just fixing fences and cleaning animals and feeding them, so I can keep doing that. But Mrs. No Show is probably just.
What value do you bring, Dr. Evil 10%?
I can go on the sit on mower and mow everything. Kind of like Forrest Gump.
Well, surprised, like the lowest effort role in
the the admittance of Mr. 2-day working week for the last decade as well. I actually laughed so much. It's like, yeah.
I wish it was true.
Yeah, I suppose Mrs. No Show can be like head of the solar panels.
Head of ESG on the farm.
Yeah, and like Gay Pride Week and that. Where we just throw stones at her.
How to get cancelled within the first 10 minutes of a pod.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to raise whilst on the pod as well is, my name, as it suggests, so never look. But I went to bed and I woke up the next day and there was another pump, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a big one. And like when it happened for you in the first bull run, how did you contain yourself? Were you looking at this, the number just going up? Like you understood Bitcoin itself, but you had a figure in mind that you're like, okay, if it gets to this, I'm tapping out. Fantastic. As it was going up and up and up, what was that feeling like?
Just it's fucking euphoria. It's nuts.
Yeah.
It was nuts. And my number was it had to hit 10K. And I thought it would do it within a 10-year period. It did it in 6 months. And yeah. And it went to a point where I was a big advocate for Bitcoin, obviously in the office, to okay, I'm on the way out now. So, and also it almost becomes like an OPSEC problem. Like I don't want lots of people to know that Bitcoin's done well for me, because you suddenly start getting the leeches and just you start getting problems,
I
right?
was
And
going to say everyone knew.
yeah, the majority of people probably did know, because unfortunately I'd been such an advocate for the first probably year leading up to this. And but it was bizarre, and it was extremely distracting. I think I've seen on Bitcoin Twitter now a lot of people going, how am I meant to go to work today? I made
Yeah.
6 months money this morning, and
Yeah.
it becomes very, very distracting, and it really makes you reflect and go, what is my life plan? Because for the first time, Bitcoin is going to enable me to think beyond this job. And so what am I going to do beyond it? Why do I come to work each day? Da da da. So that you really get challenged with some big questions.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's exactly where I'm going with it as
yeah,
well,
and
in terms of it.
and
Because
you realize you are no matter how much people say they love their job and all this stuff. Once the money that you get paid at the end of a month doesn't really matter anymore, you very quickly realize you don't love it that much.
I was going to say we're going to really need to 10x or something before we're in that situation.
Yeah, well, who knows? Like this is what I was thinking back in the day,
But
right? And I was like, oh, it's going to be
but
5 or 10 years out. Who knows? We could wake up in 6 months' time. Bitcoin could be 500K.
but
Like,
did you get in a cycle before that when it started bumping? Was it literally just a year or so before?
I got very lucky. I was literally I got in just at the beginning of the bull run. Yeah. I would get pumped from like 500 to 1,000, and that's when I was largely accumulating during that range. And then we went from 1,000 to 20,000. And
and this is what I was saying as well. Yeah. Now I'm in a point where the money I have in is significant enough to be like, oh, okay, this is making nice gains each and every day. Small increments are equaling big increments for me in the Bitcoin price.
yeah, well, I shared a chart today, and I put it in the group
Yeah,
actually. And
yeah, yeah, I loved it.
it's probably worth just quickly firing up on the screen. I just grab up the tweet, and it's just so it's just one of them, isn't it? Where you go, oh, but where are we? And I know, like, obviously, what I'm talking about right now about obviously back in these 2016 days, right? This is my market, and I got lucky, right, on this upswing over here. In 2016, 2017. This is when I was doing the bulk of my buying. So the price had been higher. The price had been up 1,000, 3 years before. And then look at that pump, right? And this doesn't even go fully to the full 20K. It actually tops out at 7,600, but it went double that, right? And where are we today? There's a lot of people going, oh, maybe we're topping out, maybe we're too late. And again, this chart isn't quite right, because we're already back at all-time highs. So the little green tick is already ticked up from that red little bit down at the 30K-ish. We're now already at the all-time high around that 70K mark. And where do you think the line's going to go? Right? If 2012,
if
2016, 2020, it could eat. If we don't hit $500,000 this time, then yeah, it'll be a shot.
I was going to say we're hitting 500,000, and that probably is a kind of figure where I would have to reassess what I'm doing. But yeah, I don't know. It would be a genuine don't know situation though, or it'd just be you better watch your mouth today.
The advice I always give is like the way
could tip you over into just quitting, just throw your laptop on the floor. Don't fucking need this anymore.
Press the button, send, write the resignation letter out, and it hits that figure. It automatically sends, doesn't it?
I actually remember being in a board meeting, and bizarrely, like I was just coming in to present my bit, and as I came in, they were discussing Bitcoin, and someone said off the cuff, "Aren't you into Bitcoin? Like when you're going off to buy your island?" And I just completely downplayed it because at that point I hadn't decided what I was going to do. I knew that financially I could do whatever I wanted, but I'm like, I'm gonna leave as many options available to me. So I just laughed it off, and you just bat it back because at that point you're downplaying what you're doing. You're like, you know what? One of the options I do have is going off and buying an island and fucking off. You said that as a joke, but it's one of them. It's like I can't actually lie. At the weekend when I was like 4 whiskeys in, I did look up how much an island was. Turns out I can't afford one that doesn't have like electricity and actually like.
Yeah, it'd probably be a Scottish one where you have to have a generator.
Yeah, I'd literally be camping on a bit of sand in the middle of the fucking ocean. Like, so it's not really a good island, but still. But it's nice to have these conversations because literally since we've started this pod, we've been in a fucking bear market the entire time. So it's nice to be back.
Exactly.
I was going to say there might be an island near Necker Island which might be discounted.
Why? Or you just
no reason. It was a lovely place where people would go, and friends were had, and joy was had, and nobody was harmed.
Necker Island isn't Epstein Island, right?
No, nearby.
Oh, are you talking about Epstein Island?
Some people would call it that.
Bill Gates and Bill Clinton's regular weekend retreat.
Nothing bad happened.
We banged a load of underage children. Allegedly. Epstein didn't kill himself. Anyway, first story of the week. Talk about being bullish. You can be more bullish than the freaking Giga Chad. So
Giga Chad himself.
Yeah, MicroStrategy, another 12,000 Bitcoin for 800 million. Jesus Christ! So that was he was buying at an average price of 68K. They now hold 205,000 Bitcoin, acquired for 6.9 billion, an average price of 33K. So for anyone that thinks that you got in late, this entire cycle, Bitcoin's been around 33K. That's what the Giga Chad's average buying is for MicroStrategy. His average is 33K. His average isn't 12 quid a coin, 100 quid, $1,000. 33,000 is average, 6.9 billion. And he's really trying to prove us wrong. Yeah, I think when we first had him on here, or like the last couple of months, we'd be like, he's blatantly trying to get 1% of the supply and get 210,000 Bitcoin. And I think he had 190,000 at the time. I don't think he can get there because the price is going to outrun him. The price has continued to go up. He's just upped his spending. And now he's nearly there, 205.
What do you think his final form is? Once he's collected the 1%, what does he turn into? It could be the rarest Pokemon.
Well, I had a question and no one's asked it yet, which is the Michael Saylors of this world and the Robert Kiyosaki's of this world, who are collecting either Bitcoin or Bitcoin and gold, both don't have kids to pass it on to. Both are single in terms of no wives and partners. So they don't have that
Robert
in terms of,
Kiyosaki.
so
I thought
yeah,
I
same.
thought he did have a wife.
Yeah, I thought he had a
No,
wife.
they're split. So she keeps the same name, but they actually do the podcast together, but they're not actually together. So, ultimately, what's the pass on and the pass down from
I think, but
accumulating all of this wealth? Is it going to go to a cat sanctuary or something, weird and bizarre like that?
I
But
think
they are focused on.
I was just going to say, I think Chad Saylor just evolves into a higher form. For Robert Kiyosaki, you do kind of wonder, because I think this is one thing which a lot of Bitcoiners are into, is kind of like family and like building for the future. And it is a completely different mindset. So you do kind of like wonder with Chad, what's his ultimate aim? Because it's not generational wealth for him; it is generation wealth.
Yeah, I think he literally wants to be. It doesn't make sense, yeah, because I think he is going to buy a country in the end, and I think I'm probably going to end up living there. So he will be president, king, making whatever he wants to be. But yeah, but the thing he will be missing is a legacy, right? And your
Yeah.
legacy is children. But hey, it's only in the recent years that I've had kids myself. I think before then, you got plenty to work for. There's plenty of reasons to live. Kids aren't the be and end all for everyone. So I agree it's slightly odd. I think the way that Michael Saylor talks about Bitcoin and about the next generation, because I think like what really ties you into caring about how you leave the world is the fact you're leaving kids there. And I think you really want your sons and daughters to have a good world and have a good start, and hopefully the world is in a good place for them to grow into and experience. Whereas if you are literally just dying out and you're not leaving anything, then you kind of go, well, who cares if it blows up in 100 years after me?
Yeah.
I probably didn't know anyone anyway. So, but I guess you could still just go on the principle of it and go, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So setting up a country, a Bitcoin country, or whatever he's going to do, because Jesus, right? We're talking like about the gains that we've got, and can you quit the day job? Can you not?
This
Jesus
is
Christ, Michael Saylor is in the world of can I buy Earth or not?
I would just want to say for record, this is a games which I'm going to have on 0.1 Bitcoin.
What gains are you going to have on 0.1 Bitcoin? Oh, right. Yeah. You actually lost in a boating accident, yeah, for the tax.
No, I never had any more. I may lose this 0.1 Bitcoin in a boating accident. I can't rule that out.
Your KYC exchange account says very differently.
I was going to say, we're doing real names. They call me Dr. Evil 70%.
But yeah, so say that.
Yeah, so we've got a follow-up story as well to this. So this is there's another player into the arena. BlackRock is running MicroStrategy down. So they've got 191.2k Bitcoin. And I think this is before the announcement that Saylor had upped his stack with MicroStrategy. Though I think there's kind of like the difference is that MicroStrategy is it's an itty bitty little company, obviously still bloody massive to have billions of Bitcoin, whereas as BlackRock, this is the rule of the oceans, the lord of the mountains, the general of the skies. Is BlackRock who owns everything, with its shady past, with its shady ownership, and who actually owns it, who actually runs it, which family does it run back to?
Yeah.
Rothschilds.
So
update as well.
It's no
actually,
surprise, is it?
From the crypto basic that BlackRock has updated its spot Bitcoin ETF holding data, showing it actually has more than 200,000 units of the cryptocurrency Bitcoin.
That's how crazy this market is, right? So this is on March 8th, so we're 4 days later.
Yeah.
But in the space of 4 days, BlackRock, it's gone over 200,000. So they've acquired 9,000 more Bitcoin. MicroStrategy acquired 12,000 Bitcoin. So they are now 205,000 Bitcoin. So it's just like, what, for once, when you go, oh, why is the price going up? Hello, these two boys are acquiring an absolute shit ton.
Swallowing it up.
But I think the very sobering bit is the last bit of this tweet, right? Because MicroStrategy have been stacking for 3.5 years, right? So again, their average buy price is 33K. And also, obviously, they're also investing their own money, right?
Yeah.
Their own. Right? I know they're taking debt and all that type of stuff, but they're not investing. This isn't other people's funds. BlackRock have basically caught up to MicroStrategy, who were out and out on their own in less than 2 months. And the way they did it was use other people's money. So the argument, obviously, initially is, well, they don't own it then, right? BlackRock technically have 0 Bitcoin because the 200,000 Bitcoin that they have is not theirs, it is their customers. Whereas MicroStrategy genuinely owns theirs, so they can do what they want with it. And you kind of go, well, yeah, but who has custody? And in Bitcoin land,
I think this
custody is king, and BlackRock, they own the custody of it.
This is kind of the question: when it becomes so valuable, who's going to own it then? Because at the moment, all our customers own it. Okay, go say in 5 years' time, a Bitcoin is, I don't know, £10 million. Can I withdraw my money? No.
Yeah, or what the taxes on it. I want to sell my Bitcoin. What the taxes? Are they 97%?
Yeah. So it's just the whole buying for an ETF. It is the evil lurking around Bitcoin.
And the problem is it's worked, doesn't it?
It has worked. It's worked in less than 2 months since the launch.
Yeah, but you've only got
1% of the supply of Bitcoin, pretty much, in 2 months.
I mean, BlackRock are going to buy more and more, but it's just what the paper hands like. You know, how many Dave Portneys are there out there? Have they not sold their stack already? So it's just 2 sells, and it'll be how it drives up the price, because you're always going to have weak hands. These are the weak hands who probably bought in or had some left over and didn't want to sell because, you know, they bought it near the top of the last cycle. And now they've got a slight profit. They've sold quickly, but they're going to find that's a big mistake.
Yeah, if the chart that I showed earlier, if the last cycles play out even slightly, it's going to melt people's faces off.
I'll be doing a Vince McMahon walking to work. Someone looks at me, you better watch your mouth, son.
Flat face. You hear that bit?
No.
I said in blackface. Shoe polish yourself up.
Fucking hell.
Walk in. Sit down. Shut up. Suck it.
I was going to say, I don't know if this one on it's being published is going to make it past the 10-minute mark when you're talking about throwing rocks at Miss No Show, and now about half an hour in, you're talking about blackface. So,
we're all far right, extreme, racist, anti-Semite, homophobe, bigots. It's fine.
Absolutely. So if this is your first time joining the podcast, it might be your last as well, but there's 133 other episodes where we're very, very similar to this as well, despite the price.
And Mr. Allins barely started drinking.
Interestingly enough, as well, I had a friend that reached out to me, and he was on TV not so long ago. He was on a show called My Dad, Your Mum.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
Is this
as
on
a
Pornhub or?
no, it was a legitimate show on ITV. Well, it might be like My Dad, My Mum or something like that. I actually didn't watch it in full. And he was the therapist for the show. But I bet you if you asked your other halves, they might have watched the show. And he said, I'm now setting up my practice following from being on TV. And ultimately, I'd love to see if there could be some sort of collaboration because people who invest in crypto and obviously Bitcoin, they probably need some sort of therapy. And he was just like, and I was just like, where are you going with this, dude? He's just like, well, I wouldn't mind sponsoring the show. And I thought it was so ironic because for those regular listeners, know full well that this show is the most unsponsorable show ever. You cannot sponsor this show and expect business and custom to follow off the back of it. But he was just like, well, no, float the idea past the boys. And I was just like,
I just don't know.
okay, but I don't think you've listened to the show properly.
I was going to say he obviously hasn't started making metal posters with Bitcoin on them, so I don't think that's really a tick. And therapy, I was going to say the therapy which I subject myself to involves iron and not talking to someone.
That's the iron room for you.
Literally, my therapy can be summed up in a sentence: man the fuck up and stop being such a fucking pussy.
Yeah.
So, and I found a show called My Mum, Your Dad
That's the one.
with Davina McCall.
Oh God.
Yeah, but if he wants to sponsor the show, and I'm actually willing to watch an episode every week and just shit on it at the intro, and that's his ad. So that's the deal. And I think, what is it? Like, 0.1 Bitcoin per share.
Yeah, and it's what's the tagline? If you want to be a pussy, then please go and see this therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he's not sold by this sales pitch, then I'm dumbfounded. Like, we couldn't be asking for sponsorship more harder than this. This is the first person that's nibbled at sponsorship, and we're just shitting on them straight away.
I was going to say there's very few fits to this show, and I think even the people who would fit into this show and won't want to sponsor it because they probably get lost revenue. So we've got our display, which I love for us to be sponsorable, but they probably get a drop in sales. Some kind of like steakhouse or cow farm would be a good one. Maybe personal training, but then again, maybe something like that, but they wouldn't get any business.
Well,
no Bitcoin who would spend on a
company, right? A toxic maxi company, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin lessons won't even associate with us. You own them.
Yeah, that's a very field sponsorship lesson ever. That's a weird one. But fair play for even. Does he listen to the show then? Yeah.
I don't know if he listens to the show, but the classic, as price creeps up, people start to think about Bitcoin a little bit more. And I also think it's a testament to the fact that we've been just continuing plodding on,
That makes sense, though. He doesn't listen. That's why he wants to sponsor it. If he listened to 5 minutes, he'd be like, I'm not sponsoring that filth.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we move on to someone less controversial? Donald Trump.
Let's try.
The Donald.
The Donald.
But yeah, we've got a clip here. I actually will play part of the clip.
Well, it's taken its own life. I do little things sometimes for fun and, make money with it, but I have fun with it too.
You mean
NFTs,
you bought Bitcoin?
No. No, but sometimes we'll let people pay through Bitcoin, or we'll let people get involved in a new. If you think of it, it's an additional form of currency. And I used to say, I want one currency. I want the dollar. I don't want people leaving the dollar. And I feel that way. But I will tell you, it has taken on a life. I did a thing that people smile at, but it was wild. We did 1,000 sneakers, so limited edition sneaker run. The last one, and you could go through, our crazy new currencies, because that's what I call them. They're crazy, whether it's Bitcoin or others. And so many people were buying these things. And ultimately, the last pair of sneakers sold for approximately, I hear, $450,000.
And we're back. So there's Donald Trump as good old CNBC. They seem to get on here quite a bit, but it's interesting to see Trump, right? Because Trump he's been a drain the swamp guy. He's been quite anti-establishment, but he's always been unwaveringly bullish and positive and very protective over the US dollar. He's always said we need one currency, that's it. This is the first time he's broken, right? He's actually going, maybe we will let people pay through Bitcoin. Admittedly, he's talking about donations, right? So he's just trying to line his pockets. He wants as much money as he can, or all that kind of stuff. But it's an interesting break from his default line that he's been anti any currency, right? Especially the Chinese yen, the euro, the pound. The dollar is king. Everyone should deal in dollars. We're the global currency. The first time he's gone, you know what? This Bitcoin thing, maybe it is money. Maybe we should let people pay in it. And maybe, even though US dollar is going to be the big bollocks of the world forever, maybe Bitcoin survives in that world too. It's just an interesting little line from him, right? This is, we're at all-time highs. And this is, and as we know, right, this is what we always say about Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't need a marketing department because the soundness of the money does the talking. So eventually people start to value sound money, and the more people that hold it, the more people that then value it. And so people like Donald now is going, all right, there's a load of rich people that own Bitcoin and want to donate Bitcoin. That is what they value as money. Eventually he caves. Because you know what? Fine. If you value this as money and you don't value dollars as money, I'll accept your Bitcoin. This is how the dominoes fall, and eventually Bitcoin is adopted as the global currency of the world because
is Trump not still bad?
Money.
Oh, he's still bad, but then you've got Biden on the other side, who's a bumbling idiot.
I thought he was good.
Yeah, he's Bidenomics, created millions of jobs, halved inflation.
You claim we created 100 million jobs. It's isn't that half the US workforce?
Yeah, but he started. He's very clever when he started. He started from the middle of lockdown when all the jobs were closed down. So,
yeah,
obviously that was not his fault and not planned, and he isn't misleading you. He genuinely created 100 million jobs.
I even heard
he may have closed 100 million jobs 2 years before, but
I heard a sound clip where he actually sounded quite coherent, which surprised me. So I thought getting a coherent clip out of him just wasn't happening anymore.
What was he talking about? Ice cream. He loves ice cream.
Oh God, I can't remember. I think there's something about transgender in there and all sorts. It was a rally for his people, and I kind of went, God, he actually sounds a bit coherent here, which, like I said, it just doesn't happen. So I don't know if his medication's changed or he's got a double who's really good.
Or the teleprompter is extra close and extra bright.
No, he just seemed on a too quick a slope into dementia before.
He must have been having some of Zelensky's cocaine.
Or is he getting blood from some children?
Well, he's been on that for years, but well, although to be fair, his supply's probably running out since they closed Epstein Island, so he's probably just had to resort to the classic Class A's.
On a completely just a tangent there about Biden. But yeah, it's a good statement. I think it's all these kind of little things which line up, like you say, it's the dominoes. These are all the pieces which slot together. So
Correct.
I don't think you can downplay the importance of this, but I think many fiat heads would. They'd say, oh, he's just saying it to gather a bit of support, or he's just doing payments. But this is just another domino. It's yet another one. We've had BlackRock, where we fucking hate BlackRock. We've had the pizza, we've had Silk Road, we've had El Salvador, we've had MicroStrategy. We've even had, failed ones like, what was it, the Central African Republic, which adopted Bitcoin and bend it off. We've had Madeira, we've had the autonomous port. So we've had all these different dominoes. This is more and more, and most of them being kept in place as well. They're not being put down and taken away.
I mean, ultimately, you've got to think, Bitcoin, or the path to Bitcoin supremacy, is never going to be just a straight road. There's going to be bumps in the road, and this is what we're seeing.
I see you use the word supremacy there. Sounds a bit racist to me.
Hopefully the algorithm picks up on that one. Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to one of our dear topics, which you and I absolutely love, which is Inflation Weekly. So the UK housing market explained. And it's been a while since we've had an inflation story. I say a while, but ultimately, the clip that we're about to play.
Hello, in this tutorial we're going to look at setting up a 21st century functioning economy. So open the app and you get the basic template, which is some old houses built a while ago. Now you can buy these houses for not much more than it costs to build them. So the first thing we need to do to push up prices is to get some debt into this market. So click on Invent Mortgage. And then we need to get this market rigged, so let's get some planning laws installed. This is the UK version, and that will automatically update. So we've created a situation in which hardly anything can get built except by a few large institutions, and that means we've restricted supply to what's already there and a few crappy new builds. Next, we need to flood this market with money, so let's have a little fiddle with the monetary system. So we've got house prices nicely going up, which means interest rates should go up as well. So if you're a central banker monitoring inflation, click on Ignore. We've got a bubble now that is going to pop, and when it does, I want you to click on Bailout Banks, Slash Interest Rates and Quantitative Easing, and that will nicely prop up prices. If people start complaining, install Help to Buy, and that will mute them. And it'll be a nice little earner for the house building companies as well. And you're going to have a situation now in which, even though a house is cheap to build, pretty much anyone under the age of 35 isn't going to be able to afford one. Just to buy or rent even the tiniest place, they're going to have to work like slaves, pool their wealth, get subsidised by their parents, put off starting a family, and take on shed loads of debt. And there we have it, a functioning 21st century economy. To recap, the ingredients here, the key ingredients, are the money system, planning laws, and a subsidise homeowners at all costs mentality in the policy setting classes. I'm going to be posting more of these tutorials in the future, so yeah, please subscribe to my YouTube channel.
And we're back.
Boom.
What a video, eh?
It's
That's
a
it.
nail on the head.
Like that's without all the bullshit, without all the political speak, the meandering, the PR, the pompousness. There it is. That is literally when people say, "Oh, the housing market, it's supply and demand. That's why." Well, yeah, to a certain degree. But guess what? Planning laws got brought in. Oh, but we still want housing prices to increase, and you start inflating the money. Like, this is the government fiat manipulation of the entire housing market.
What he's missed out is the most recent development, which is I can't remember, was it Canada, which is proposing these, which was basically lifetime mortgages. So not your standard 20, 25-year mortgages, which everyone's had for probably the last 30, 40 years. It's going for 40-year mortgages. Then also there's a proposal around intergenerational mortgages. So it's stretching across your children as well as a proposition to solve this, rather than actually going, what's causing the issue here? Is it because the money's devaluing? Yes or no? And then people speculate into property because the money's collapsing and they want a safe haven. But instead, we're going down this route. But it is something which you need a hard currency for, because I think you get a lot of people moaning about house prices, but they won't accept there is a solution. And it's the same people who are like, oh no, it's not Bitcoin. But we don't understand that this really does fix this. Because people aren't going to go, I want to throw my money into a house, get a negligible rent with all the upkeep, and because house prices don't increase, I'm not going to make any money on this. I can't do any pulling out money because there's no kind of like increase in the house prices, so there's no capital I can remove. So it means that people aren't going to buy property to rent, are they? It lets you remove that, and also you don't need to, because your money's not getting devalued every year, and it really is the fix. But a lot of people just cannot accept this.
Yeah, and it's such an obvious scam that when it's laid out, how that video lays it out, it reminds me of the Bitcoin Standard Book, and you go, oh yeah, that's so many things that I know all put together in one little couple of sentences that really says it much better than I could say it. But the amount of, geez, like we guys used to talk about, oh, my house has gone up by X, and you just go, it's not real. That's not, like, your investment hasn't gone up. Like, you haven't been smart. There's a load of macro factors at play here that are just pushing everything up. And so the house that you want to move to has gone up by equal the amount of money, if not further. And your wages are probably decreased. So you might think you've made 20, 30 grand on your house. You haven't. Like, the house that you want is going up by 50K, and your wages have devalued by 5. So you are actually poor, even though you think that you are richer because your house value's gone up. And this guy just dictates exactly why. This is the fiat market, the fiat land, and how deadpan he is. He explains it all in 2.5 minutes. You go, this is it. Well, I can guarantee if you were to send that to anyone that isn't a Bitcoiner, that is neck deep in debt, they go, that guy's wrong. He's negative.
Yeah, too negative.
Like, if you really objectively listen to what he's saying there, it's really, and it doesn't even make me sad to like watch that kind of video and go, that's spot on. Because the majority of people that I know in my life are right in the middle of that world.
Yeah.
And it's through no fault of their own, but these macroeconomic things have happened. And now you just grow up in that era, right? Like you said, born after 1980, good luck, lifetime of debt. Guess what? We were all born after 1980, lifetime of debt. Unless you manage to freaking find Bitcoin early or something like that, if you just follow the default path of the lemmings and the NPCs, lifetime of debt. And like how you just said there, what's the evolution of this? What kind of debt can they get into that isn't lifetime? Instead of generational wealth, we're talking about generational debt.
Yeah, I think we're probably fortunate for our age, but we both, sorry, not both, all of us had good careers, so we have been able to buy houses, easily pay them off, whereas some people are going, paycheck to paycheck, aren't they? And their mortgage has to be extended. So I think we are in a beneficial position, but then again, we've still got lengthy mortgages to pay off, and it is a good proportion of our working life.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you've always got to have somewhere, I guess, to live as well. So whilst the price is increasing, you can't just simply sell your property and then go to another in the hope that you've made this fictional gain. But
the fictional gain is they usually want to upsize, don't they? These people make a fictional gain, go, oh yeah, it was, they sold that house for 500 grand, they bought it for 200. And guess what? They buy my next house for 650. And they'll gain on that one, but it's because then they'll probably try and go up another step.
Yeah. But one thing that we do have to remember is that the principal loan amount that you typically would have loaned from the bank in terms of a mortgage is a good debt. And this again was something that I don't know where he's coming out with this from. Is my eldest son. It's just like, he asked yesterday, what's the difference between a credit card and a debit card? And I was just like, good question. So as he's asking this question, we then start talking about property and then talking about leverage as well. So the fact of the inflation is happening as it does. If you bought a house for 200k, you put down 10%, so you 20 grand, you might have to over time pay 230 grand back. But ultimately, as they keep on printing more and more money, and if wages do slightly increase a little bit more, then you're actually paying it off. And at the end of the day, you've got an asset to hold, but you've got to stay tight.
I was going to say, but the risk around that is that with inflation, they end up eating away your safety net. So you struggle to live, which I've seen with various people, like people who actually know they've had that safety net eaten away over the last 4 years, where they weren't paycheck to paycheck before. Now they are, even though they budgeted correctly.
Yeah. And as we saw in the video, right, it's a fake scarcity. Right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin has real scarcity. It's designed into the algorithm, designed into the code, 21 million. That's it. Property isn't like that. Or I suppose actually, no, property does have scarcity, as in you can only build so many houses.
In the UK, yes, correct.
Whereas you can only build so many houses in the UK. However, what is severely restricting that, and it's planning permission, the housing rules. So that is what is built in, and then who is allowed to build those homes are only certain suppliers. So they've created fake scarcity, right? I hate to say it, right? Because I know Sanevela, you're a big fan of the brand. You shared a podcast on it this week. Rolex, right? Rolex is another example of fake scarcity. They could make a million watches a year. They choose not to. They choose to make very limited supply. They choose to make things slowly. They choose to only use the best and all that kind of stuff. And drip feed the amount of product out to maintain value, right? Now, if they wanted to, they could flood the market with Rolexes that are just as high quality as the ones they have. However, they would probably make less money because the value would drop, will probably crater, because suddenly, why wait 7 years to buy this 50 grand Rolex when I can just buy one tomorrow and there's 50 in the shop, right? So suddenly the value plummets and I can buy one for £500 now or whatever. So my only point is that is fake scarcity because they are controlling the supply on purpose. Bitcoin supply is not fake scarcity. It's a genuine scarcity. The Satoshi coded in 21 million Bitcoin at the beginning of Bitcoin in 2008, and that is genuinely the amount of Bitcoin there is to get. So there is a Bitcoin rush, i.e. a gold rush, to get that Bitcoin. And this isn't fake. This isn't one person going, oh, there's only 1 million at the moment. And then later on, they can go, oh, I'm joking. There's another 5 million here, another 10 million there. Right. In Rolexes and in property, they can do that. If they wanted to make 1 million homes in the UK in 6 months, one signature on a government official's planning application form would allow that, where they could suddenly enable 10,000 or 100,000 acres of the fucking sausage hands' fucking estate, because he owns. Because obviously we live in a country where 75% of the land is owned by one guy, i.e. the royal family. So he could just sign off 5% of that overnight and go, you can build as many fucking homes on it as you want. Suddenly there's 1 million new homes in the UK. House prices plummet, which for the long-term prosperity of the country would be fantastic. Everyone that's bought a home and everyone that's done the buy-to-let thing, catastrophic. Anyone that's invested in property, catastrophic. So guess what? The rich, the elite, they have invested in property. They are heavily invested. So that is why it would never happen, because they're creating fake scarcity.
Yeah, I think there's that aspect, and what we've seen, like it's probably like every area, is they keep on building homes, and it's always the big boys, isn't it? You know, Red Row and whatever the other companies are who build the new homes, and there's no improvement to roads, and there's no improvement to local resources, schools, and whatever else. So and doctors as well. So we end up with the towns which become crowded because pretty much all there's backhanders left, right, and centre, aren't there? So there's numerous issues with this whole situation. Like now the traffic gets more and more. Like you build 10% more homes, the roads can't handle it because they don't invest in the roads, do they?
No.
And it's just, you know,
it baffles you to think where the money's going.
But the money's there. If it was actually, you know, transparent, I bet you the money's there, and they could afford to do this if it was run efficiently like a private business.
Well, we know they have essentially infinite money, but they're not doing this by accident, right? They're doing it on purpose. They're literally limiting the supply of housing on purpose, but publicly saying that they are not. They want loads of properties to be available to first-time buyers and all this type. We know they're not, and they'll use a million excuses, and usually like the environment will come in. Oh, we're protecting this greenbelt area, and they'll say that to their blue in the face, and then suddenly it will be, oh, Red Row are now suddenly allowed to build 200 homes on this greenbelt area that was completely off limits for the last decade. You go, well, what changed? And it's just, well, we have to give a certain amount of homes because we're letting so many people into the country and that we can't completely let it implode. But so we're going to fold on certain moles, but not all of them. And
it's strange because we've got that where they want to build on greenbelt land, and it's just like, isn't that illegal? And completely against what you stand for, but you won't let other people build on brown belt land.
Yeah, it's, as we know, it's a load of bollocks. So let's move on anyway.
Yeah, let's move on.
Well, this is an interesting theory, right? It's a little bit of totally not from a Bitcoin maxi, like at all. It's from a guy called Rune. No idea who this guy is. But his tweet was doing the rounds. Saw it kind of on my Bitcoin Twitter. So he's essentially just go on. Go on. So he's basically throwing out there that essentially Bitcoiners, or at least Bitcoin ETF buyers, are essentially going to fund the next bailout. So I just shared a tweet. So this guy's basically going that there's huge losses, and has anyone forgotten the fact that huge banks have crashed less than a year ago? And then obviously we've got these huge pumps. So we've got Nvidia and just the New York Stock Exchange in general pumping hugely, but then we've got some billionaires supposedly selling recently. We've got 3 big banks failed just last March, and basically suggesting that are people literally using the euphoria in crypto as exit liquidity. So essentially, this poster is proposing that the Bitcoin ETF is designed as a vehicle to collect funds from the crypto bros, that when the banks fail, they will steal this money to underpin the banking crisis.
Possibly, but they can just print more.
Yeah. Well, do you even think, just in theory, do you actually think that they would, if a crisis was to happen, do you think they would steal from the Bitcoin ETFs to underpin a bank?
No,
1000%.
because it's BlackRock, and it's got to, part of BlackRock is to have this pillar which says you can invest your way out. Please invest more. So I don't think they'll ever take the money out of BlackRock. It'll be siphoned out of all other places, or maybe it could go through a back door. But you've got to have that hope. You've got to have that pillar of invest. You're not just spending your taxes. You're not just paying for public services. You've also got to keep the financial system afloat with this money. So I don't think they'd touch a vehicle like BlackRock, Vanguard, those kind of companies. They prefer to take money out of your bank account before they do that.
I just think the number may just naturally go too high, and it goes back to maybe last week's pod or the pod before, where ultimately the human greed will just take over, and as always, it'll just be too much for them not to want to do.
Well, as in steal.
You're right, they could take it from other places, but they'll just be fixated on the, oh, it won't matter, it's only Bitcoin, the number's so high, we'll take it from here.
Yeah. The only problem with that is the amount of money they would need is like a multitude of multiples above what is in the Bitcoin ETFs. Like there's tens of billions in the Bitcoin ETFs now. When the stock market collapsed in 2008, they lost upwards of $1 trillion. Right. So obviously we've had a lot of inflation over the last, 16 years since that collapse. So now $1 trillion is pocket change, right?
Yeah.
That used to be the whole market. Now it's multiple trillions. So my argument against that post really is they could steal all the money out of the Bitcoin ETFs and it wouldn't even like dent the sides, even tip the balance slightly into the favor of what the banks need. It's just not big enough right now. So yeah, they might well steal it, and they'll probably steal it through regulation or taxation, which we've already predicted anyway. Like that's why we tell people not to invest in these things. So by and large, I do agree with them that, oh, they'll steal your money in the end. Yeah, they will. They will. When the collapse happens, they will steal your money. They absolutely will. They will use you to bail them out themselves. But is this some very clever tactic where they can see themselves about to collapse? So they're going, oh, you know what? I should create a Bitcoin ETF, collect a load of money here, and then when this collapses, we throw the money over. No, the two things don't balance, right? You've got the entire financial world and you've got a Bitcoin ETF. One is everything, the other is a microscopic version of the other. One cannot bail out the other. So this guy it's a nice little conspiracy theory to say that, oh yeah, anyone buying the Bitcoin ETF is a moron. All you're going to do is bail out the banks. That's literally what they're doing. This is like a stupidity tax. It's not. It's not. They are quite trying to control Bitcoin, but the stupidity tax is the pension system, the tax system, the entire stock market. If you invested any of those things, then that entire thing essentially is a stupidity tax, because when that system collapses, they will steal everything that you've got held in there to attempt to bail themselves out through a whole host of regulation or taxation.
That is true. And like you said, it's the amounts. I shared a post amongst the group earlier, which I think Brian Armstrong commented on, and it was a frequency of trillions being printed in the US or other debt. And it started off taking pretty much a whole reign of Clinton, whereas now it's down to less than 100 days under Biden. Like, I think it's like every 90 days it's happening.
Yeah, the post that you posted, and I think that we may be covering, that's the one, by Brian Armstrong. I was watching a different podcast, and they said that the US is gaining every 100 days, 100 days. So it's slightly longer here. I think the largest number, or the smallest number that I saw, was 158 in terms of the shortest time frame, 2000 and how is it?
Yeah, and it's only getting faster as well. You can see how it ramps up over time.
187. Yeah, there we go. To 2020. The navy blue in 2020 for obvious reasons. But if that number continues to keep on coming down from the time of first dollar to the $1 trillion mark, then it is definitely going to be it's hyper Bitcoinization, isn't it, happening?
It's good to see Brian also actually talking about Bitcoin. He's been very much a crypto bro for a number of years, and obviously, like we know all this, right? The US national debt,
Yeah,
the US monetary supply. None of these things are a surprise to a Bitcoiner. And whenever you chart this data, it looks fucking horrendous. It's all going from since 1971, from bad to hysterically bad. Once you get to 2024, everything is accelerating, nothing is slowing down. And when you map all this data onto any other previous fiat currency, the end place every single time, without exception, is hyperinflation, complete debasement of the monetary policy, a reset to a different currency, and then you start again. Usually onto another fiat standard, right? Because that is the only option. So we're following this right now. This is Brian Armstrong sharing a chart that we've all seen a million times. It's a slightly different variation of it, but yeah, this is why we Bitcoin. You're as much as I hate models and cycles and all that type of stuff, when you've watched fiat currency explode 200 times over in different nation states, and they just reiterate a different version and then just rebase the entire monetary policy and then just start again, and the same cycle plays out. They rebase it, start again, and each time they rebase it, everyone that has worked their entire life gets their entire life savings reset, and they have to just deal with it.
Most recently seen in Turkey, where I think they took 2 zeros off their Turkish lira, but then that didn't stop them inflating it stupidly again.
Yeah, because until you hit complete hyperinflation and you completely reset it, people don't care. And this is why we Bitcoin. This is why we've opted out of this system, right? This is all these fiat currencies are the Titanic. The majority of people are sat on them going, it's okay. We're all pointing at the huge holes in the hull. Water is flooding in. Every time water is flooded in to a ship of this size, it is sunk. And they're going, this time it's different. And we're going, there's this huge Bitcoin ship right next door. It used to be a little life raft, right? I used to call it a life raft. Now it's quite a large ship, got quite a few luxuries on board. It's not a little life raft anymore. It's a nice big ship. You can jump over to this and sail away, and potentially even leave some of your luggage behind if you really want. Maybe it will survive. But you yourself can jump over here. Do you want to? That's the question we should be asking, like our friends, our family, just about everyone. And because
It's a good question, actually. You're absolutely right. Yeah. But people don't understand that the current system is broken. So that also is another mental hurdle for them to
They
get
think it's
over.
normal.
Correct. So before you're even then saying we've got this life raft, what do you mean I need a life raft? Because everything's absolutely fine. Like no, we're working from safe paranoia is what I'd call it. And this safe paranoia of, oh my God, things are going to shit. But we're safe in the fact that we have Bitcoin and we have something else, or we have a plan and we also know what's going on. It's a better place to be than just thinking, oh shit, I'm going to wake up one day and don't even know where anything is.
it's what people thought in the Titanic, isn't it? I
Yeah.
spent good money for this ticket. It's the ship that will never sink. But people would point to water in the hull, and people would dismiss it and go, the captain is saying everything's fine.
Yeah.
If everything's fine, that means everything is fine. And so in some instances, I can't remember which video I even saw today, but there was another Twitter video about that sometimes you can't save people. Like you can literally go into a burning building and try and drag someone out, pointing at them at the flames, and some people will still say that the building is not burning, and in that instance, you just have to walk away and go, okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
And I honestly think we're getting to that point, right, where it is so obvious. I think when you go back to 1971, where all this started, it was very hard to kind of figure out how this is going to play out. And over the last 50 years, it got more and more obvious as the years have gone
Well, I
on.
was going to say, not just 71. If you go back to like 19, in that video about the housing, it had it back to, what's it, 1918 or before, when the UK came off the gold standard yet again,
Yeah.
unpegged itself, which goes against the principles of the gold standard.
Yeah,
And
UK.
then what was it, the Bretton Woods Agreement, which is the holding of the gold. You kind of got all these steps and you just couldn't predict it. And then 1971 onwards is where it just became super obvious, wasn't it? What was really happening. So this is it's 100-year play.
Yeah, and and unfortunately, all these plays they end up being like a hockey stick. So it's gradually been bad, but now we're in the hockey stick moment. It's starting to really tick up.
Do you know what will solve it though?
What?
Communism.
Ah,
Just like it'll solve the climate crisis. Just
Communism is welcome in our house when it comes to the food menu, and dictatorship too.
communism.
It'll solve the money too. Don't worry. It'll helicopter you some money. It'll get you to work in the fields with all the other plebs. And it won't be your fields, it'll be the government's.
It's just nuts, isn't it? And every story, every time I turn on Twitter, I got like there's a farmer in Germany protesting the fact that his farm's been taken over, and you just go, everything is just playing out exactly as we said, and I think the most disturbing thing is virtually nobody has woken up. Right? There's I don't know, what is it, 100,000 Bitcoin Twitter people tweeting about it, liking stuff. But who's stopping anything? Right? There's this farmer in Germany who's spraying shit on a German building right now because he doesn't want his farm brought over because he can't afford to run the farm anymore. But what happens in 6 months, 2 years? Chances are what happens in 2 years' time is the government get their way and they buy its farm. So they will own the food supply, they will own the water supply. And once they own that and there's no independent farms, communism is extremely easy to roll out.
Very attractive. Bring down the world's temperature by 4 degrees.
I want to sign up to OnlyFans. But anyway.
The next story, I'm wondering, why is this in here?
This is
Yeah, I wasn't too sure either what the angle was on this one in terms of Jeff Booth gets SIM swapped. So for those that don't know, Jeff Booth was an ex-CEO of a large organization, big advocate for Bitcoin, and also the author of The Price of Tomorrow.
Yeah. If anything, I literally just only threw it out. It's a bit of a security warning, and that a lot of people use their two-factor authentication for their banking apps, their exchange apps to be SMS. Don't do that. Jeff Booth has been SIM swapped here, right? Because it's very easy to be SIM swapped, because especially if he's used his real name, if his name really is Jeffrey Booth, right? You can phone up multiple carriers, essentially pretend to be him and get a different SIM sent to you. You put it into your phone, and then suddenly you can then log into exchanges, into your banks. The way to avoid all this bollocks, number one, don't have your full name be public. And number two, your two-factor authentication should not be SMS. It should be an authenticator code that is tied to your device. So I use Google Authenticator. I hate Google, but the Authenticator product is great. So essentially, what that means is I can't be SIM swapped, right? If someone was to find out my name, even find out my username for Coinbase or Kraken or Gemini, even though there's no Bitcoin in there, right? I still wouldn't want someone foraging around in that account. So if they did manage to SIM swap me, which is phoning up my mobile phone operator and convincing the operator on the other end that they were me, which can easily be done, by the way. They use lots of different social engineering reasons. They go, people have died, da da da. I'm calling on behalf of this person. I need their phone. It fell in the river. They will figure out a way of getting a SIM sent out to a random location that was not the bill payer. Once they have that SIM, now suddenly when I log into a service, the text message, the two-factor authentication code, goes to their phone. They're in. They can get into my Coinbase. They can then get into any transactions and they can send from over. So the only point of me throwing this in is just to go SMS, two-factor authentication is bollocks. Use Google Authenticator. That's the only point I wanted to make.
Okay.
I do use Google Authenticator, and it is good in terms of that. A couple of accounts in terms of where I log on from.
It's a shame you can't use it for your bank. So that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'm just trying to work that through in my mind, but yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's like probably tied to your phone number and all sorts, but yeah, Coinbase, I am Google Authenticate as well. Anyway, move on to the next one, which is already on screen, preempting what the next story is going to be. How efficient are we?
What is it?
Someone's tweet, and then what is it? 6 years later.
Look at them miners.
Look at the miners.
6 years later, he's got a shitload of miners
in his garage.
Looks like a barn.
Oh no, it looks like no, it's bigger than a garage, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you see at one point the door or something like.
Yeah,
There,
So it
there you
looks
go.
like a yeah.
It's like a storage container or something. And
Mm.
but yeah, this guy. This is a little bit like don't know. The only reason I again put this one on the agenda is it's a little bit like how Finney's running Bitcoin, and he sends that in 2009, and obviously the future showed that running Bitcoin was one hell of a thing to do. And this guy, you know, tweets back in 2018, so a good 10 years later than Hal Finney, that you know what, I'm going to begin mining Bitcoin. And he updates us 6 years later in 2024, and he's got a tricked out storage container, banged full to the fucking rim, Bitcoin miners humming to their heart's content, churning in those sats. And I just went, you know what? It's another example of proof of work and fair play, right? He obviously went all in on Bitcoin back then. Those miners, even back in the day in 2018, would have been very expensive. There's still been thousands of dollars or pounds per one. He's built it up over 6 years. I'm sure he's become extremely wealthy over that time. And fair play. He's still got him running right now, still stacking sats, still running his mining operation. Fair play. There's my overall comment.
I think that's about all we can really say on that.
Well, then, what have we got to say about the next one?
Proof of work.
That's what we've just done.
Sorry. Next story.
This is Bill Ackman, who apparently has got his understanding of the Bitcoin and how it's going to take over the world. So, reading this, Bitcoin price rise leads to increased mining and greater energy use, driving up the cost of energy, causing inflation to rise and the dollar to decline, driving demand for Bitcoin, increased mining, driving demand for engines. The cycle continues. Bitcoin goes to infinity, energy prices skyrocket, and the economy collapses. Maybe I should buy some Bitcoin. I'm guessing he's been very sarcastic, Bill, or he's forgotten to take his meds.
I don't think he's being sarcastic, And just in case no one thinks like Bill Ackman's a guy, like he's got 1.2 million followers. And he is largely respected as one of the best investors of his generation. The good thing is Michael Saylor comes in to help, right? Like you should buy some Bitcoin, but not for the reasons cited above. Most Bitcoin miners are driving the cost of electricity down, but other consumers not up. Let me know if you would like to discuss it one-on-one. So it's a good job we got Giga Chad going around Twitter, tidying up these billionaires' mistakes, because it's like when you read his whole tweet, it's like so nonsensical. This is one of those examples of where all your working is totally fucking wrong, then you end up on the right answer. Like you fluke, like the answer is 3,416. They go off down a random fucking path of like lots of division and multiplication, and they come back and they have the right answer, and you go, and the answer is maybe I should buy some Bitcoin. And you go, yeah, you're right. You're right. However, we got to walk this back a few steps because you did not get here the right way. And so, yeah, Bitcoin price leads to increased mining. Kind of correct. Greater energy use. Somewhat, yes, okay. Drives up the cost of energy, not materially. The amount of energy used by Bitcoin is so negligent that absolutely no. The majority of Bitcoin energy is also off grid. So that is a no. Causing inflation, absolutely not. Bitcoin
No.
does not cause inflation. The dollar to decline, no, we do not cause a dollar decline. That is doing it by completely itself. Driving demand for Bitcoin, increased mining. Well, not you've already missed, like the last three steps have been wrong, so now you're just totally wrong. Driving demand for, and he's like, this is like a cycle. It's like, no, this cycle is not driven by the forces that you are just have articulated, right? You know, the Bitcoin's demand for energy is so small, it cannot force that market dynamic cannot be forced by Bitcoin mining going up or down. It's too small to matter. So he's completely like lost the plot on that one, but ended up in the right conclusion, which is maybe I should buy some Bitcoin. But yeah, you should. But not for everything you've just said, for none of that reason. But still buy some Bitcoin and maybe talk to Michael Saylor.
Or watch our podcast as to why you should. But this is not financial advice.
Yeah. But it's funny though, isn't it? How this guy is literally one of the most respected investors of all time. And his understanding of Bitcoin is so fundamentally flawed that any pleb could read that tweet and go, even though he's bullish on Bitcoin, he's bullish for the wrong reasons, and we'll still give him shit, right? Whereas the majority of intelligent investors will not know what's wrong with that tweet. It just shows how advanced I think Bitcoiners are on this kind of method of thinking. Because Bill is not stupid, right? He genuinely thinks that when he's tweeted this thing out, he thinks he's really found this cyclical model that proves why Bitcoin will go up, and has no idea how wrong he is. But any pleb could tell him.
I was going to say. Yeah, but he'll put out his opinion to all these millions of people without doing his research. What a fucking idiot.
It's like the misinformation episodes between yourself and I, Dr. Evil 10%.
At least we labelled them as misinformation.
Yeah, he actually believes it, doesn't he?
All right, we got the last one. It's just a fun story here. So I'll go on. I'll share my browser again. So we've got American Hodl here, and so basically Zach Prince, this prick here, has paid out his debt, and you may be asking, what debt has he paid? Well, he had a bet against American Hodl, and his bet was that back in March 10, I think in 2021, he made a bet with Zach, the CEO of BlockFi, rocket ship, going to the moon, Pompalatic. He bet him 1 Bitcoin that they would go bust within 37 years. And guess what? BlockFi went bust within 37 years. They went bust within 2. So
who would have thought that a company which promises returns of, what was it, 10% would go bust when they're based upon betting against the market? I just can't comprehend how they went.
I know, nuts, eh? But
given the advertising that BlockFi used to do as well, and obviously the sponsorship, and we talk about they would, they could have been a sponsor of this show because they were sponsoring everybody else, and we would have been caught up in that whirlwind. But yeah,
imagine you got BlockFi or some company sponsoring a show. So
you want to go and read some of my tweets when BlockFi was freaking all the rage. If they agreed to me talking about BlockFi the way I talked about BlockFi, and they still want to advertise, then good luck. Could have been, do not give them any money. They're going to give you 10% stake on your collateral, but they will lose 100% of your collateral. So you're going to get 10% on
It's,
0% because you're going to lose everything. And guess
it's
what
like
happened? They lost everything.
it's like imagine you get 10% per year, so you go up to 110% within the first year. You get 11% in the following year, so that's going to be you get 121%, so you made a 21% gain, but 100% chance of losses within that second year. So well done. You rode that one to get your Aston Martin.
Yeah.
But all of these logical things go out the window when going back to the point, and it's a great word, euphoria kicks in. Because, again, before the bear market, everybody was all in on BTC, and everyone was just like, "Yep, love it, love it, love it." Pomp had his show with his brothers giving away Bitcoin for free each and every day. All you had to do was retweet. It was just like, that's when we knew the top was the top.
Yeah, it shows long gone, isn't it? And it's almost
Yeah,
like,
long gone.
unfortunately, a top signal is when Pomp comes back, right?
Yes, you're right.
And
Will he start
Started to see
advertising?
him.
Will he start advertising mattresses again?
that'll be the next bear market.
Yeah,
Because
that's when you
unfortunately,
know you need to sell.
They sounded pretty cool though.
another sign of like, the bear or the top being shown is the only reason why Zach has come back to Bitcoin Twitter is he's announcing some new role. Actually, he said it's going to be tomorrow, and it's been well and truly past tomorrow now. Cost seg. Yeah, he's in real estate. Yeah, wherever scammer goes. He's gone from crypto to real estate.
Well, funnily enough, we were talking about real estate just before.
Yeah. So Zach Prince, he's the CEO of BlockFi, announced he was going to be coming back into the market, and he's going out of crypto, going into real estate. Okay, congratulations, Zach. Who gives a fuck? No one cares. But him coming out of the bushes, out of hiding, basically just allowed American Hodl to go, you know what, by the way, I did bet one Bitcoin your company would go bust within 37 years. You went bust in 2. You owe me a Bitcoin. And you know what? Originally, Zach blocked every single Bitcoiner who called that out. And eventually, I think because he realized that he did need public opinion on his side, he ended up paying the debt. A lot of people are still blocked, but he paid the Bitcoin supposedly to American Hodl. So the debt is now paid. Although, ironically, even that is called controversy because there's loads of BlockFi customers that have not received their money back. And seeing their CEO pay off a side bet has pissed off a load of people in the middle going, well, hold on, I gave you money not as a bet, it was part of your company's services, and I haven't got my money back. Why has American Hodl got his money back from a side bet? I want my 10K back that I gave you for my hard-earned wages. So you the life of a scammer, right? You can't win. You need to come in and go out. And Zach, I don't think, like, my honest appraisal of Zach, like this Zach Prince guy, I actually don't think he's a scammer. I might be wrong, but I think he's just a guy that just gets very misguided and is a bit lost. Because otherwise, if he wasn't out and out scammer, right? You set up BlockFi, you take shit tons of money out the back, you let it go bust, then you're never seen again. He's coming back. He wants to come back. Like, scammers don't come back, especially into the same space. And then if you do come into the same space, don't pay off your previous debts. That's just silly. So maybe Zach's got some kind of redemption arc, but
no.
But lending out your Bitcoin, giving it to custody to someone else, as I've said on many podcasts of this before, the existing financial system is built around a system that is designed to try and combat inflation. If you are on a Bitcoin standard, you don't need most of these products. So all these loans, mortgages, ISAs, saving accounts, all this bollocks. If you just have a finite supply of the thing, you don't need them. You don't need to fight inflation if there is no inflation. So all these Bitcoin companies popping up that mirror the existing financial system, they're not needed. You're trying to beat an inflation on a currency that doesn't exist, which fundamentally means you are gambling behind the scenes, and that will ultimately blow up, guaranteed. And you will lose the entire collateral of the people there's money who you're investing. So there we go.
Want me to take us out?
But we're still at Bitcoin all-time highs. But take us out.
We are still at Bitcoin all-time highs, and it has been brought to you by Mr. All-In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and surprise, surprise, whilst we're all on all-time highs, Mrs. No Show, still no show. Peace.